Investigators are looking for two men they suspect helped the suicide bombers target that airport and that subway station in Brussels. Meanwhile, the Associated Press is reporting at least 400 ISIS fighters are being sent to Europe. They're going to carry out new attacks. Former U.S. Navy Reserve Commander Tom Croci fears that number could actually be on the conservative side. Tom, thanks for joining us now.
Thanks for having me, Charles.
Even if it's 400, 200, 300, it's a frightening number, and they know they're coming. What are they doing to brace for this?
Well, this is foreshadowing for what's going to happen in the United States. Certainly the permissive visa system in the European Union has contributed to this. But the more concerning thing is there was information present. There was law enforcement information, intelligence information about the individuals associated here, and the linkages weren't made. The fusion never happened. Those were lessons that we should have learned after 9/11, NATO nations for sure. And now you have another cataclysmic attack, really targeting the social network of Europe, the train travel and airport travel and that freedom of movement.
And you make a great point, because here you have the European Union ostensibly designed to open up Europe for commerce to move, for people to move around freely. Then you have a euro, common currency, and yet intelligence information is blocked at the borders. It doesn't even flow even in their own country. I mean, I read what the mayor of Molenbeek is saying. Hey, it wasn't her responsibility to follow these guys. I mean, where does the buck fall there, and how many attacks does it take before they get their act together?
If you're an elected official at any capacity, your state, your local government, whether it's in the United States or it's in the European Union or a European country, you are responsible, and you have to be vigilant about these things. So the information seemed to be present. It wasn't getting into the hands, or there were political decisions made not to do anything about it. The Abdel Salam, who's in custody right now, he didn't know about the attack, according to his statement. Well, was he interrogated? How was he interrogated? These are questions that are going to haunt certainly the government in Belgium and in Europe, and we should be thinking about that here in the United States right now.
The two brothers associated with the attacks, the one in the subway station and one of the guys at the airport, both criminals, both ex-cons. One took a shot at a policeman during a robbery arrest. It's just absolutely amazing. It's not even about the argument in this country with profiling. And these are ex-criminals, these are ex-cons. There's data on them. One of them stopped. One of them faded away. I think one was on parole or something. Stopped going to hearings. We hear this on both sides of the Atlantic, by the way. So you already have a profile. There already should be a red flag. What can we do to go after these people?
Well, it seems like the information was there and the connections were made. And the arrest of Abdel Salam triggered an early detonation of these attacks and these
sort of a panic. Okay, we got to do it now, or
well, it might not have been a panic. It might have been their standard operating procedure that if somebody in the cell is rolled up, then we execute the attack early. That's the problem here. Is the information was there. There was an arrest. We knew individuals were associated with this cell who had past criminal activity, passport data that's come through. The information was there. No one took action, and that's a political decision.
But do we have to ultimately change laws? In other words, I know, like in Molenbeek, for instance, the population 2 times more dense than Brussels. It is a gigantic sort of, let's face it, sort of almost a Casbah ghetto, if you will. And how do you get someone? How does a country like Brussels afford to follow all these potential terrorists? Can it even be done?
It can. And we did it after 9/11 in this country and in this city. And people like Commissioner Kelly, former Commissioner Kelly, and the NYPD, a model that has been adopted across the world for how to do the kind of intelligence collection you need to do in certain communities without jeopardizing constitutional liberties. We also have technical collection. A collection that we can do that's very controversial in the country that NSA has been reported to have been doing. These are things, these are tools we must employ now. Otherwise, we're going to be, not only are we going to see these smaller attacks, the kind that really affect our day-to-day life and put fear into people, but you're going to see catastrophic attacks in New York State.
After the fact, there's always the finger pointing. It happens every single time.
It's already happening.
Who should be in charge? Who should be in charge in Europe? Who should be in charge in America? I mean, is it Homeland Security? It seems like there should be one central figure who puts it all together and keeps it all together, so that there's always that constant communication that we talk about all the time. Someone takes goes to flight school and just learns how to fly and doesn't care about landing. Or over in Europe, someone has a shot at a cop, a Muslim immigrant who's shown disrespect or disdain for the host country. Who keeps that together?
Well, in our country, it's supposed to be the National Security Council process, the interagency process, where everybody who has a piece of that, because no one agency
Who's in charge of that?
The President of the United States and the National Security Council in this country. But I can tell you that the federal government has asked, Director Comey, the FBI, has asked state and local governments to help. Because in our country right now, domestic radicalization is making this more difficult. The internet and social media are making this more difficult. Now, it's everybody's responsibility, regardless of the level of government. And if they don't take it seriously, there will be a reckoning, as there is right now for the elected officials in Belgium.
Tom, before I let you go, talking about the local level, what's the role of the general public? We know see something, say something. When you see a coworker who's acting differently, starts to grow out the beard, starts to say things that are anti-American,
right.
Maybe things that hadn't said before. And when you do say something, I can tell you, I grew up in a neighborhood where they used to say, hey, you know, call the police about someone. But
right.
people in the neighborhood were afraid.
Right.
I'm not going to squill on this guy.
Right.
He's going to go to jail for a week and come out and beat me up. So how do we make sure that these things are effective so people can say something without being afraid that, hey, they're going to pay a price? Not being politically correct, but being afraid they'll pay some other price.
The government of the United States learned this lesson, or we should have, after September 11, 2001. And the changes that were made post 9/11 and the blueprint that we had to protect us was successful. I think that we need to continue to ask our public officials. I'm an elected official in the state of New York, and having worked in the Situation Room in the White House and been a part of that process, I can tell you, we can do it well when we want to do it well. We have to have the political will to win the war.
Tom Croci, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.